Yo, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I'm doing what if Naruto was the reincarnation of Haguromo, Hamura, Indra, and Ashura. Now, how this is gonna go is that after Hamura has lived on the moon for quite a while, he entrusted his descendants on keeping Kaguya sealed and safe. And with that, Hamura and Haguromo put their last efforts into making a new creature, a new life form. Similar to how they split up the 10 tails to make 9-tailed beasts, they used their chakra to make a human-like creature. And about 50 years later, when it came time for Indra and Ashura to die, they did the same thing. And so all of that massive amount of otsutsuki chakra, as well as human chakra, went into a new life form, which resembled humans more than otsutsukis, though it still had some otsutsuki features. It was to be born in about 900 years later, about 100 years before the Nine-Tails attack, and with that, this person, who is going to be named Naruto, would then meet Hashirama as well as Madara, although he would only meet them after the founding of Konoha, since before that, Naruto lived alone in the woods, unaware of any type of civilization, led by his instincts and will of survival. Then one day he stumbled into Konoha, where he met Madara and Hashirama, and was soon to become best friends, as those three were incredibly strong, though nobody, even Naruto himself, nobody knew of his strength. Though Naruto would only actually gain strength after Madara had already, at least officially, passed away and left the village, and Konoha, at least for now, was to live in peace, where Naruto became Hashirama's right-hand man due to his superior intellect, for he could even keep up with the Yamanaka clan and the Nara clan. He learned incredibly quickly under Hashirama himself, even learning some wood-style jutsus. And now, with all of that might, he would join the Black Ops, the Anbu, where he would work in secret, protecting the village and giving it prosperity and wealth. And he would actually basically lead the entire organization up until Danzo took power. However, that would still take a while. So for now, Naruto worked hand in hand with Hashirama to protect the village, almost as a shadow Hokage, which was the role that Madara could have had. Naruto became incredibly strong, perhaps even stronger than Hashirama himself. However, he didn't seem to age whatsoever, and he still had a look of a 12 to 15-year-old boy. No one knew exactly why. However, not many people interacted with him anyways, except for work / his shinobi duties. The only people he really had conversations with outside of shinobis was Hashirama, the whole Senju family, Mito, and those, of course. At one point, Hashirama took Naruto in almost as his own child, because Naruto was at least a little bit younger than Hashirama, though technically he was still pretty old. But Naruto accepted, and with that, Naruto lived with Mito and Hashirama for quite some time, up until Hashirama passed. At that point, the house did belong to Naruto, though he did mostly live with Tobirama, because Tobirama was, to some extent, his uncle, but at the same time, kind of more of his cousin. They had very similar ideals though of course not with the Uchiha thing, which is where Naruto would try to help Tobirama lead the village into the right direction and not into a civil war. Which is why the whole Uchiha thing, instead of going berserk, it kind of died down with Naruto's help, and an agreement was struck. By the way, I know I kind of skipped over it, but Naruto does have dojutsu since he is basically an otsutsuki. So he definitely has the Byakugan, which is like the standard otsutsuki dojutsu. But he has a more pure version, a stronger version, you could say, with more reach, distance, and just stronger abilities. So he's basically, if he was one, he would be the strongest Hyuga to be alive, which is quite a feat on its own. Then he also has, of course, the 3 Tomoe Sharingan. However, not the, he does have the Mangekyo, but only when he found out that Hashirama passed away. So, yeah. And, of course, he won't turn blind because he's an otsutsuki, so he basically has the EMS. And he can turn them on one at a time. He can even have, like, one normal eye and one Byakugan, or one normal eye and one Sharingan. So he can completely control how his eyes look and actually are. But the Rinnegan he doesn't quite have yet, though he can feel that he is about to unlock something new, something different. Now, Tobirama was on a mission with the skinning team. However, they had already grown up quite a bit, especially Hiruzen, who was pretty much a candidate for being the third Hokage, though that would still take a while. At least that's what everyone thought. And the reason why Naruto didn't go along on his mission was because, again, he's an Anbu. He works in the shadows. He doesn't show himself to everybody. He's almost like an assassin. However, all of the high-ranking people, such as the elders, perhaps Jonin, maybe some experienced Chunin, know of his achievements, feats, and strength. Of course, all the Anbu do too. However, it had been longer than expected, which is why Naruto got a little bit suspicious when suddenly he got a knock on his door. It was Hiruzen, along with the village elders, who were about Hiruzen's age. Of course, at the time, they weren't the village elders. They were just Hiruzen's teammates. They were standing in front of him, seeming like they wanted to tell him something, which they probably did since their sensei, the second Hokage, wasn't with them, which didn't quite make sense. Why would their sensei not come to his own house? Something was going on. And the expression of the faces said everything. They didn't even have to say anything. Naruto understood what had happened. Tobirama Senju had fallen in battle. This was a tragic blow to the village. And with that, Hiruzen was appointed to become the third Hokage by Tobirama himself. It was his last words. However, Danzo was not happy with that, which is why he would try to gain power in other means, which is why he turned to the Anbu and created his own force, very similar to the Black Ops, which he then named the Foundation. And for now, Naruto didn't worry about it, though it could lead to trouble soon. For now, everything would go as normal, though Naruto would be almost depressed, and whilst he was at his very lowest point, whilst looking into his mirror, his eyes, which he was unable to control, which had already been turned into the Mangekyo out of pure rage and sadness, that he couldn't help. He felt like it was his fault. They started spinning, turning into lines, into a grayish color, almost purplish. They became the Rinnegan. However, it would not stop there. It would continue spinning, faster and faster and faster, and at some point, dots, splats of ink is what it looked like, turned into Tomoe. For he had obtained the Rinne Sharingan, arguably one of the most strongest and overpowered dojutsu to exist. After that, he fainted. We skip a few years where Naruto continued his Anbu duties. Nothing out of the ordinary happened until the night of the Nine-Tails attack. Of course, at this point, Naruto and Minato had become rather good friends. And Naruto sadly also had to say goodbye to Mito, the last remaining senju that he knew. Though of course, he did know of Tsunade, however she had left long ago. And now, the Nine-Tails attack would pursue, where one of his best friends, Minato, would be in big trouble. However, Naruto arrived too late. Minato had already performed a seal, though it wasn't yet the Reaper Death Seal, for Naruto did not want Minato to do the Reaper Death Seal, which is why Naruto, with the help of his Rinnegan, absorbed Kurama by first hypnotizing him and then basically making him go inside of Naruto, if he wanted to or not. The entirety of Kurama, except for a tiny bit, which would then be transported into Kushina. The rest would all go into Naruto. So, Minato, though very exhausted, would survive that night, along with Kushina, who was on the brink of death, as well as their daughter, their newborn, who would still, of course, survive, without the Nine-Tails. Naruto would take care of them in the shadows, of course, being a good Anbu for Minato's wife and kid. And, of course, he had a few interactions with Kurama, who he didn't want to hypnotize and brainwash 24/7, which is why sometimes they even spoke to each other, and Kurama felt a certain amount of similarity to his father Hagoromo in Naruto, since Naruto did possess some of Hagoromo's chakra, as well as, of course, Hagoromo's descendants and brother. Which is why Kurama was actually fine being sealed inside of Naruto, and there we'd enjoy living for the next few years. However, finally, when it was time for Minato's daughter, as well as some other important people for the next generation of the Leaf Village, such as Sasuke Uchiha, who had the potential of becoming the next Uchiha leader, though it could have already very well become his brother, since Naruto had also become good friends with Itachi and Shisui, fellow Anbus, and the three of them were known to be the best of the best. Incredibly fast, with incredible dojutsu. However, Naruto only showed his Sharingan, not the rest, since that was only for himself, and in very dire situations. Anyways, also, people like the heir to the Yamanaka clan, Nara clan, and the Hyuga clan would all be joining the academy that year, which is why cultivating that new generation would perhaps be the most important thing that Naruto's done in his life so far. So he joined them in the academy. Of course, Iruka didn't know who Naruto was, since he was a pretty inexperienced chunin, so he treated him like any other student, and nobody at the academy actually knew who Naruto was. However, Naruto would soon be shown to be the strongest there is in the entire world. At least that's what it seemed like. Whilst Kiba was being loud and screaming at Sasuke for getting all the girls. Of course, Sakura and Ino were mad at Kiba because he was jealous. However, since Naruto was too old and annoyed for these childish games of theirs, he went up and karate chopped Kiba's neck, knocking him out instantly, though of course without any pain. And there wouldn't be an injury after that. He would just be knocked out by hitting a chakra point with his Byakugan, who would have only been activated for a millisecond. The Chunin in the room were extremely surprised and would be careful of Naruto from that day on, though they did know exactly what happened, and did report it to Hiruzen and Minato. They already figured. However, they still seemed surprised just to keep up the act, since they didn't want everybody knowing how strong Naruto is. At least not until Naruto himself was comfortable telling everyone, since Naruto wanted to live in the shadows. He wanted to stay hidden. That was his style. Anyways, Naruto's clothes and look was very similar to Indra. However, it also had a little bit of Hagoromo, Hamura, and Ashura, of course, mixed in. He had a robe with Tomi in it, though usually that's what he wore for the Anbu. For school, he wore more basic stuff, kind of like Sasuke, though more of a blackish color with some ninja tape. Of course, nothing like a headband or anything, but he did have a cape, though he barely wore it to the academy. He used that more for missions to stay hidden. However, he did have a small sword, similar to Shisui, which he was able to use lightning chakra and fire and wind for. Naruto would also have the Chidori and Rasengan, as well as elemental Rasengan, such as the Rasen Shuriken, for he was the one who helped Minato even make the Rasengan. And since Minato survived, he would evolve it further on, past his normal death. Naruto would go on to become good friends with Sasuke, as well as Shikamaru. And one day, Sasuke invited Naruto over, where Fugaku would greet Naruto in a very official way, because he didn't actually know that Naruto was coming over. So, whilst he bowed to Naruto, Naruto just answered with, "Shh, not here," he whispered, because he didn't want Sasuke to figure it out. He just wanted to become normal friends for once in his life, since Naruto never really had a normal childhood. It was just surviving. And then, when his childhood was over, he just became an adult. So he just wanted to experience academy life as a normal student, which is why he didn't tell anybody. And I mean, that would just tarnish his whole mission, since his mission was to make the new generation stronger and more knowledgeable. and telling everybody how strong Naruto is could discourage them. Anyways, Itachi and Shisui also came over to Fugaku's house. Of course, Itachi lived there, but Shisui also came over. And Itachi and Shisui did also not know that Naruto was coming over, which is why they were pretty surprised. Though didn't greet him quite in such an official manner, and didn't really bow to him, as they saw him more as a friend and partner, teammate, rather than a village official. After the dinner, Fugaku, Shisui, and Itachi asked Naruto as many questions as possible, since they weren't aware that he was in the academy. Of course, this was while Sasuke couldn't hear or see what they were doing. Naruto answered that he tried to cultivate the new generation, which kind of made sense, since no one really knew who he was, though he could hold his own, and was very knowledgeable, since he was as old as Hashirama himself. Almost, at least. And it is kind of funny, because what the students had in history class was literally Naruto's life and childhood, which was a little bit boring, though also nostalgic for him. But it also made him sad, looking back at the times he had with Hashirama, Madara, Tobirama, and all of his past mates. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna finish that video off here. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!